This message is about never giving up. Because once you give up, you lose. Once you quit playing lottery, you can never win. Now, I will say and branch off to a point that if you need to win lottery to win, then you already have a problem that is much bigger than winning lottery. Uh, you have a self-esteem, a self-value problem. Uh, Elon Musk never won lottery. Well, he did win lottery when he was born with an emerald mind, uh, but I guess he's a bad example. But other people, Steve Jobs didn't win lottery. Uh, Other people that have made Michael Bloomberg didn't win lottery. Uh, I can go on. A lot of people didn't win lottery, and they're worth much more than any lottery they could have ever possibly have won. And they would have had to won a lottery about 5, 6 times to equal what they have today. So winning lottery is not a good financial plan. If you're telling your landlord, I'm gonna pay the rent when I win the lottery, he's gonna move for eviction very quickly. You know, so or you tell the bank, I'm gonna cover the mortgage when I win the lottery. They're gonna move for foreclosure very soon. So it's just like I've said in the past and older videos, you have to invest in yourself. And if you think you're going to solve your problems by buying a ticket at the local 7-Eleven or smoke shop for $2 or $5 or whatever the price is, you know, you're sadly mistaken. And you've really given up on yourself by buying the ticket, because you're saying, I can't make this money any other way. And, you know, and the problem with the whole scenario of what I've just laid out is the scenario that you need money. Uh, you know, the way the world is designed, it's designed to make you need money, but it's also designed to make you a slave. So, you know, and when you are a slave, you have a slave mentality. You have a lack mentality. Uh, you never have enough. If you did win the lottery, you'd be mad it wasn't a bigger jackpot. You'd be mad when they take out the taxes, and you'll be happy for like 10 minutes, as soon as the first relative calls and says, I heard you won. I've been looking at this new car, so there's that as well. And you don't need money to be happy. You really don't. You don't need money. I don't have any money. Like I said, I got $50 in my account, and that's it. I don't have a lot of money. I have a lot of clothes, you might see, but I don't have a lot of money. And it's just, uh, and I'm very happy. I'm extremely happy. It's your attitude. You have to have gratitude in your attitude. And if you're miserable because of you. You're miserable because the circumstances you're facing right now, you created, and it's part of what you did. If you're in jail, it's because you put yourself there. If you're in a horrible marriage, it's because you married the wrong person, or you're the wrong person, and the one you married is really the victim. You know, and but and it's really your motive. Like when you start a business, are you going to start a business to make money, or are you going to start a business to help people? and I hope it's to help people because making money, it just doesn't work. I mean, it might work at first, but it backfires on you. Um, the money becomes evil, you know. Whereas helping people never backfires on you. I mean, you might have problems because helping people creates. The problem with fixing a problem is you create a problem when you fix a problem. So whatever problem you had, now you have another problem. But and that's a series of life. That's just life. You know, and um, but you shouldn't quit because of that or not do anything. I'm trying to help people right now with this video. And all my videos, trying to help people. I'm trying to teach younger people that life is not a it's not over when you're 21. It's just beginning. It's funny when I turned 21, I pretty much stopped drinking because I could do it legally and it was no more fun. I used to like getting into bars and clubs when I didn't belong there, and but when I could go there, I didn't want to go. So you know, it's just life is a journey, and if you run marathons in your life, your first marathon isn't going to be your last, hopefully. And it's just we do think as humans, we do repetitive things. Uh, if we go to baseball games, we usually go to more than one. If we watch a baseball game, we usually watch more than one. If we eat hamburgers, we usually eat more than one. You know, and it's just nature of the beast. Nature of the beast. We date a girl, we usually date more than one. Maybe not at the same time, but it's usually not going to be our last girlfriend. You know, so it's just and it's great. That's life. That's what happens during life. But it's all in the attitude, really. It's all in the attitude. You know, I eat good food. I eat supermarket food. I don't go to fast food. I never eat fast food. I try not to eat fast food. When I'm in a pinch and I need something to eat, I'll do it, but usually I regret it. So uh, it's just not advisable. And I mean fast food, pizza, fast food, anything. All those Papa John's and the cheap things, they use cheap ingredients. I know the box says the greatest ingredients, and it's not. If it's the greatest ingredients, they're not charging you $8 a pie, you know. So, you got to look at that. And I, I I try to eat upscale because it's expensive to eat good, and I like to eat good because eating is very important. You know, uh, people that eat poorly, feel poorly, live poorly. Uh, they have a bad attitude towards food. They have a bad attitude towards their body. Uh, they have no patience because people that eat fast food, they want it by the time they go around the building to get to the window. They want it ready and that's it. And there's no patience there. There's no respect for making good food. When you go to a diner or a restaurant, you have to wait, and you have to wait. And it's going to cost you more, but it's good food. I mean, fairly good food. You know, home cooks the best. But, it's just, and now with the supermarkets are playing with the food too. A lot of the stuff is crap. A lot of anything in a box. I try not to eat anything in a box, because they spend more money on the box than they do what goes in the box, you know. But the advertisement on the box costs a lot of money, and to print those boxes costs a lot of money, and the stuff they put in the boxes. it really doesn't cost them anything. So, try to use that analogy that if it's in a box, I'm not going to eat it. Uh, but oh, I don't know. I mean, today I'm going to the mall. Gonna hang out, watch the Daily Show, which I have on tape on my iPad, and hang out. And I sit down. I find a comfortable spot to sit down, and I people watch, and I get a smoothie, and I buy some pretzels, and I just make a day of it and enjoy myself. And I have a disabled bus that takes me and picks me up, and so I don't have to worry about getting there or pay for parking or parking at all. I mean, you have to wait for the bus, but like I said, I'm in no rush, so it doesn't matter. I know it's coming, so it's not like it's not going to come. And yeah, it's just like I said, it's all your attitude and gratitude. So if you win the lottery and you have a bad attitude, you're not going to enjoy the money. You're not going to. Uh, like I said, you'll be happy for the first 10 minutes until all the things start affecting you and seeing what the effects of it are. Your wife will divorce you, take half the money. I mean, all kinds of things can happen if you win. And I know a guy that won the lottery. His wife divorced him. He quit his job, and within, I don't know, 2 years, he was back at the same job uh, with no money. Uh, it's just bet on yourself. Always bet on yourself. Even if you're a bad bet, because if you bet on yourself, you become a better bet. Because losing is good. Success comes from failure, and you have to fail a lot to succeed. And not giving up on yourself is really the key. You can't give up on yourself. You can't throw in the towel. Which is what people do when they play the lottery. They say, "I'm never going to play that again. I didn't win." It's like you weren't going to win anyway. So, but uh, winning shouldn't be the goal. Uh, Achieving something that makes you feel good should be the goal. Like winning a marathon. It's not winning the marathon that's important, but beating your time from the last marathon you ran. I mean, that's a good goal. Um, Keeping the challenge, creating a challenge for yourself. Uh, and, if you want to be president, uh, uh, it's not going to be an easy road. It's not going to be an easy road. But you have to do certain things to do that. You have to get an education. You have to be of age. You have to uh, have. I mean, I know Trump blows this one out of the water, but have a good past. Have no dirty anything they can use against you. Uh, you know, and and if you do, then you should be a Republican. But you know, but you have to. If you want to be a president, you have to act like a president. You can't be a president if you're gonna act like a crack dealer on the corner. And like there was a couple, Chinese couple. They owned a house out in Stony Brook in Long Island, New York, and they rented it to, I don't know, 10 or 12 Stony Brook students. And it was a four-bedroom house, and they cut the house up to make it a 10 a 10-bedroom house, and then we're getting close to $900 a room a month for the Stony Brook students. And what happened was there was a fire, and it exposed all the all the code violations in cutting up the house into 10 rooms. The bathroom was a problem. Everything was a problem. the electric, and there was a fire. Nobody got hurt in the fire, but of course the 10 people have no place to live now. And the the Chinese people that own it, they're facing a slew of charges, looking at jail time, major fines, and exposed all the other houses. Now they're going to look at all the other houses around Stony Brook to see who else is doing this and how many other houses are like this, because it's a fire trap, and 10 people could have died, and they didn't, thank God. But these Chinese people thought they were going to buy this house and do what they wanted and make this money. And for a while, they did. They made money, and the investment was paying off. But now with the charges and the lawyer fees that they don't even discuss, which are astronomical, and the jail time, and they can't sell the house the way it is, so they have to probably, I don't know if they have to tear it down or put a lot of money into, and I don't know if insurance will cover it because of the violations. So their insurance might be null and void. And there's just a whole slew of problems from trying to beat the system, to try to get over. And a lot of Chinese people do this because they're extremely cheap and they don't care. I guess they feel they can get on a plane and go back to China and escape the law, but and I didn't even know that they were Chinese. They were Oriental. They might not have been Chinese, but a lot of Orientals do this stuff. They're into renting. They own a lot of property, and they rent, and they're very horrible landlords. Like the Jews. The Jews are very horrible landlords. They're very cheap. They do the bare minimum. If the state says the heat has to be at 60 degrees, and it's at 60 degrees. They do nothing additive, and they charge the highest rents, and it's just they're trying to get over on the system, you know, and uh, and it doesn't always work. Walmart tried to get over on the system with their pricing. Uh, they have electronic price tags. They can change the price at the whim of a hat, and in Jersey they just made it illegal. So they thought they were going to get over. They put in a lot of money and a lot of effort to have those electronic price tags, and now it's illegal. And what do they claim? They claim that it's going to lead to higher prices. It's going to lead to all these problems. The law, restricting them is going to lead to all these problems, and it's not uh, any more than it would if it never existed. You know, it's just an excuse. It's just a way to get the people against the government, and that's they want the people on Walmart's side. And I don't know how that's going to happen when Walmart's charging you more, uh, and they charge you by your profile. When you go online and you buy things from certain websites, um, they know where you live. They know how much money you have. They know the neighborhood you live in. They adjust the prices accordingly. And and that's not right. If something is $1.99, it should be $1.99 in every neighborhood, but it doesn't work that way. You know, uh, like when you go to the city, it's extremely more expensive just because it's in the city, and there's excuses for that. The city rent is higher, the city traffic is higher, stuff like that. But the taxes on the stores are higher, but it's just not right. It's just like everybody in the city lives off bodegas. There are no supermarkets in the city, and they live and the problem is the blacks and the Spanish. They live off these bodegas, and they live off potato chips and um, honey buns and all crap food, and and they don't have health insurance, and they get sick, and they don't get help. And they're being made sick by their environment because their environment doesn't support them or supply them with the means to get proper food and to eat healthy. No matter how much money they have, there's just no supermarket to go to. And the mayor now is trying to conquer that, trying to solve that, but it's like a drop in a hat. It's dropping a needle in a haystack compared to the real problem, you know. And the biggest problem with the supermarkets in the city is the rent and the theft. There's a lot of theft, and they don't want to. The amount of money they tend to pay for security outweighs anything they're gonna do, you know. But there's always problems. Like I said, when you solve a problem, you create a problem, and but never give up. Never give up. There's always a way. There's always a way. And, and you should go for the gold ring, but you shouldn't be very upset if you don't get it. You know, unless then you should quit, but you should use it as a learning experience. You know, if you don't get the first promotion that comes up, uh, do what you have to do to try to get the second one. You know, now I know like certain shows on TV, they teach you like Survivor and Big Brother and those shows. And they teach you how to be sneaky. You have to be conniving. You have to make alliances. Um, and that's a game. Uh, and that's fine because it's a game. But a lot of people think that they do that in real life. They hire the rich girl because they want to be rich. They want to be in daddy's company, or they want a promotion from daddy, and it's just all those things like the Chinese couple. None of those things work. You might win the Big Brother game by doing it, and that's fine. But when you do it in real life, you pay the price. People are really going to go to jail for a very long time, and they're going to pay astronomical amounts of money to get where they would have been before they bought the house. And I'm just trying to give you a heads up. Don't do it. Don't do it. You know, Look, I live off Social Security. I live off disability, and I could work a side job. I could drive a taxi off the books and make extra money, but it's not worth it. It's not worth it. When you get used to that money, you can't live without it. You buy things that money can support, like a car or something you can support with the money driving a taxi. And that money is no longer there, you have a real problem. Like these Chinese couple, they had all that money coming in rent, and now they don't. So they have a real problem, you know. And they built their whole financial plan was on $1,000 a month rent for 10 rooms. That's $10,000 a month that they're not getting anymore. And not that they deserved it, but they were getting it. And now their whole plan is blown up. So if I work as a taxi driver and I lose my job or I have an accident, or if I lose my Social Security, my disability because they find out I'm working a job, everything gets blown up. So it's not worth it. Just be honest. Be honest. I know honest is is not easy. Integrity, morals, they're not easy. It's like you're married and this beautiful girl comes walking in and you're like, oh, I don't want to be married anymore. And it's like you don't know the trouble you're facing if you actually entertain those thoughts. You know, so and the devil puts girls like that in your life to tempt you and to get you on his team. And if you do that, you will be on his team, and you don't want to be on the devil's team. And if you're on the devil's team, then most likely you'll go for that girl, that babysitter or whatever it is, and your life will fall to shit. Your life will fall in pieces, and it'll be that easy. So all I can say is, don't do it.